Human beings are curious creatures. We have an uncanny desire to be drawn toward the morbid, to look into places where no man should. Today we are looking at an ancient tome of a grimoire that is so diabolical that it has two histories. Today we are looking at the Necronomicon, Ex Mortis, from the Evil Dead films. Hi, I'm Rob, and this is A Constantly Racing Mind. If you're new to the channel, we cover film, the horror, sci-fi, and action and adventure genres. We do prop culture and all sorts of geek, so make sure you subscribe for more videos like these. Now, for a supposedly fictional book, the Necronomicon has two distinct histories. The original Necronomicon was an invention of the early 20th century short fiction writer Howard Phillips Lovecraft, or better known as HP Lovecraft. He was born on August 20th, 1890, and died on the Ides of March, 1937. He was only 47 years old. But like Poe, H.P. Lovecraft was an inspiration to new generations of horror writers, and readers who wanted to go beyond Edgar Allan Poe or Nathaniel Hawthorne. So if you haven't checked out H.P. Lovecraft's works, I really think you should. Lovecraft first mentions the Necronomicon in his 1924 short story, The Hound. It's a tale of two fiendish grave robbers getting their asses kicked by an even older ghoul who they thought to exhume from the grave for the treasures buried with him. Now, the author of the book in Lovecraft's universe was the mad Arab Abdul Alhazred. The original name of the book was Kitab al-Azif. That's nocturnal sound made by insects, which is supposed to be the howling of demons, and was written in the 8th century AD, but contains knowledge older than Egypt, Babylon, Akkad, and Sumer. The name Necronomicon, Book of the Dead, and the author's name, Abdul Alhazred, are just plain gibberish. They make no sense either in Latin or Arabic. The thing about Lovecraftian horror was the way of mixing references from history, literature, and his own fiction to create a strong background for his horror stories. Lovecraft even encouraged his literary friends to expand on the Necronomicon's use, which would help strengthen the mythos. One of those friends was his protege, Robert Bloch, the writer of Psycho. The book itself, unlike the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, was just a book with no magical properties. It's bound in leather with metal closures, but the ancient symbols and arcane spells are difficult for modern man to comprehend. In some parts, the book relates stories. Other areas, it's alchemical in nature, and others are just demonic spells used to summon the elder gods. Now, the great old ones who roamed the earth before man, those who slumber beneath and who will rise again. Now, in this story, The Dunwich Horror, there's a year-long spell that summons the ancient deity Yog-Sothoth, like the 9 gates of the Kingdom of Shadows from the Johnny Depp film, The Ninth Gate. The incantation in that story was incomplete or unfulfilled due to pages either missing or fake. In another story, The Thing on the Doorstep, there's a spell on the Necronomicon that transfers the speaker's conscience into another person. In other words, possession. It also includes a ritual to resurrect the dead. The book contains knowledge that is so horrible that it causes the reader to lose one's sanity, thus the mad Arab. That is the thing about Lovecraftian horror, is that it's subtle. Remember, we're talking about the 1920s. Lovecraft would often allude to things which cannot be described, or non-Euclidean geometrical buildings that just to look at them would cause one to lose one's sense of time and space. To allow the reader's imagination to do the heavy lifting, he alludes to something with just enough to set your mind in gear. Lovecraft tells the stories that take place in dreams or in the oldest parts of New England. Unlike Stephen King, Lovecraft rarely, if ever, went for the gross out, which King freely admits that he does. Now, in the 1970s, a book with the title The Necronomicon was published by a person named Simon. The book has really nothing to do with either Lovecraft's version or the Evil Dead version. So now, onto the Evil Dead version. In the Evil Dead franchise, it has the power to harness the Kandarian demon's ability to control both the dead and the deadites, as well as to summon the Kandarian demon itself. It was written by one of the Dark Ones long ago, back when they ruled the earth and the seas ran red with blood. In two realities, the book's birthplace was in a temple of which would be considered modern Egypt. Regardless of where it was created, the Ex Mortis contained pages made from human skin, and its images in Sumerian text, inked in human blood. According to the one account, the book's cover comes from the flesh of a powerful demon who had more control over the Deadites than the Dark Ones themselves. Now, some say the Ex Mortis is actually a collection of ancient texts written by the Dark Ones, translated by al-Azif. Written in the book were prophecies, funerary incantations, and demon resurrection passages. It is unknown how many copies and variations of the Necronomicon were written by the Dark Ones themselves before their banishment to another dimension. Now, somehow, 3 copies were eventually discovered in a graveyard in modern England. In 1300 AD, the time-displaced Ash Williams journeyed to the graveyard and took the real book back to the Castle Kandar, where it was located away in a tower for many years. Shortly after, Ash brought the book to the castle. Professor Raymond Noby, his wife Henrietta, and his daughter Annie Noby discovered the Necronomicon and the Kandarian dagger in the early 1980s in the Kandarian ruins. The professor and his wife took the book and dagger back to their cabin in the mountain woods and left their daughter Annie to continue her work at the archaeological site. Now, between the time Ash going back in time and when he took the book to the castle, and the time when Professor Noby rediscovering a handful of pages that were torn out of the book and hidden in the ruins castle. Of course, Annie finds them after her father and mother left for their cabin in the woods. What I like so far about this piece is the cover. It is a bit more subtle. Looking at images from the films, their prop is, in my opinion, ugly, with the face protruding out quite a bit. The mouth of this book is not as open as in the film. Looking around the web, there are quite a few replica artists out there on eBay and Etsy, so when deciding on making a purchase for something like this, you really have to do your homework. You gotta watch the movies or find videos of all 3 films on YouTube and hope they have the images of the book. And then from there, you gotta be very carefully on decide on what you want. Now, looking at individual pages, they seem to match the film. Oh, here's the page that Ash first turns to when he finds the Necronomicon and the reel-to-reel recording in the cabin in Evil Dead 2. There are also places where you can download a PDF of the pages in case you want to tackle a project like this. And here's the twirling temporal vortex or time tunnel that transports Ash back to the 1300s. Now, this item is your standard page size, which is 8.5 by 11 and weighs just under 3 pounds. The description says the cover was made with a durable latex with a burnt amber color, and the pages are done with about 120-pound cardstock. And here is Ash's evil hand. The font is also available online as well, and I'll put a link in the description. Now, I got this from an Etsy seller, Rubberworks, out of Chicago, Illinois. Now, the problem with books like this is that 9 times out of 10, the person reading or translating the grimoire inadvertently summons something evil. In 1981's Evil Dead, this is precisely what Noby did when he found in the text was volumes of ancient Sumerian burial practices and rites. Basically, it is a book of do's and don'ts, dealing with the deceased. Then again, Ash and his friends do precisely the same thing, which pretty much screws up their weekend. Now, the books take on a more active role in the soft reboot of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Both of these films were directed by Sam Raimi, who more recently wrote and directed 2009's Drag Me to Hell, and before that, he was responsible for the Spider-Mans 1 through 3 with Tobey Maguire. Now, when I first saw The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, I wasn't sure what to think. On one hand, the effects were cheesy and, in some ways, somewhat comical. However, once you got down to it, there is some solid horror. And like Stephen King, Raimi doesn't hesitate with the gross out, and that's what he does. Then there's the Army of Darkness and the time-traveling Ash, and this is where the mythos of the Necronomicon Ex Mortis really takes off. The thing about these films is that whether or you think they're silly, you must admit they are entertaining. There are times when I want a movie that makes me really think, and trust me, there are many out there. However, there are times I just want some plain entertainment, and the Evil Dead films do that for me. So let me know what you think of this prop replica and the video. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and slam the thumbs down if you didn't. Now don't forget to subscribe, and click here. Take care, and stay safe.